Okay, Zayin Vav.
That's what they should take off, this lady. Zayin Vav. How do we make a shittuf for an alley? No, Zion,
Yes,
Zion
that's
Vav.
right. You're right.
One places a barrel and declares, "Let this belong to all the residents of the alley." He may confer possession to them through his adult son or daughter, through his Jewish manservant or maidservant, and through his wife. But he may not confer possession through his minor son or daughter, nor through his Canaanite slave or slave woman, because their hand is like his hand. If the food became diminished, one may add and confer possession, but he does not have to notify them. If more residents were added, he may add and confer possessions, or he must notify them. What is its quantity? When they are numerous, food for 2 meals for all of them. When they are few, the volume of a dried fig, as in the case of transferring on Shabbos for each and every one. Okay.
Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yossi, so says Rabbi Yossi, all these quantities that we spoke about before, that's when you lechatchila making the eruv from the beginning. Aval b'shiyare or eruv kol shehu. But if people have started consuming the eruv, it's still good for any amount is still useful. Okay, and you don't need to add on to it to resupplement it once the eruv has been created. Okay. So in a situation where you've already got a shituf mavos, so all of the cluster houses around the alleyway have all joined into the shituf mavoy. Technically, they don't need to do an erev chatzeros because the erev chatzeros around it is good for it joins the courtyards implicitly. So why do an erev chatzeros? He says only so that the children shouldn't forget that there's such a din as erev chatzeros, because if you keep doing shituf mavos, which is this mission is very very shaykh to our modern situation where like entire cities have got a shituf mavos around them, and you just don't know what an erev chatzeros is. And the master, we didn't do that. I mean, we should. We according to this Mishnah, we should take our little shvil over here in our building and do an erev chatzeros between us on Shabbos. But we don't do it.
I think I one time told you, maybe not, but in a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago, or so, the Rav in the shul where we were, it was a young Israel, and he said that we're going to make, in a couple of weeks, we're going to put the Erev down. We're going to say the Erev is not up, because young people don't know what an Erev really is, how it works and how it doesn't work. So it's
a good idea.
I don't know if they actually took part of it down.
Okay, good idea. So, and the truth is they should leave the Erev up lamase, but just announce that it's down.
Right. I think they did something like, I'm not sure how they did it, but they, so everybody, we were aware of it. It was a good idea.
Okay. Bakol ma'arvin u'mishtatfin.
Wait. Get off of here. You know what this monster did yesterday? We came in the house and he took a roll of toilet paper from the bathroom and opened the whole thing up all over the house.
But that's the most fun thing in the world.
Oh, geez. I told him to put it back, but he didn't listen.
Okay. Mishnah Yud. Bakol ma'arvin u'mishtatfin chutz min ha'mayim u'min ha'melach divrei Rabbi Eliezer. It says Rabbi Eliezer, you can use any food that you want, whether for a shituf mavos or for an erev chatzeros. Anything is good except for water and salt. Remember, we had that other Mishnah about water and salt. I think it might have been you can spend your Maaseh Sheni on anything other than water and salt, and you can spend noder min hamazon mutzah b'mayim u'b'melach. So all these things that are specific about water and salt. Okay, Rabbi Yeshua Omer kikar hu eruv. It has to be a full loaf of bread. Erev chatzeros is different from shituf mavos, he says, and it has to be a full loaf of bread. Afilu ma'afe se'ah v'hi prusa. Even if you have a massive loaf of bread made out of a se'ah of flour, and it's sliced, ein ma'arvin ba. It's not good for an eruv. Right? A kikar ba'isar v'hu shalem, but a teeny little loaf of bread, but it's a shalem ma'arvin bo. That's good enough. Okay. what's his reasoning? He says the Gemara explains that the reason of Rabbi Yeshua is because of Ava, that you shouldn't have conflict between the neighbors. Why they shouldn't come into machlokes, and one says ani no saying pas shleima v'ata prusa, saying I'm giving a full loaf and you're giving slices. He just said everyone gives slices. Sorry, everyone give a full loaf v'zeu. Okay, and halacha follows Rabbi Yeshua. No saying Adam ma'al chenvani v'lanachtum kadesh yizkelo le'eruv. So a person sells wine and lives with him inside the mavoi. Okay. So he's a chenvani, he's a shopkeeper who lives inside the mavoi. And the person says, "Listen, I don't have any wine. He has some money for wine so that I can participate in the mavoi." And according to Rabbi Eliezer, so this is Rabbi Eliezer. He says you can give him the money, and that's good enough. He's purchased his portion, because he says that so whether it's the shopkeeper for a shituf or a baker for an eruv, they can be mezakeh him, even though Chacham said that money is not koneh. The kesef is not koneh. You've got to make a kinyan. Okay, he hasn't, and in this case he hasn't done any kinyan. All he's done is handed over the money. Okay. Nonetheless, Rabbi Eliezer says that when it comes to eruv, Chacham will make it on this to be mamed on din Torah, because min Torah the money is koneh. It's just a din drabanan that the money is not koneh. Okay. Chachamim lo zachu lo ma'osav, but the Chachamim say no. There's no difference. If he hasn't actually done a kinyan on the produce, on the wine or on the bread, he can't have the chenvani do it, because it belongs to the chenvani right now. So the chenvani can't be mezakeh him. So you need to get some sort of third party to be mezakeh him in order to join him into the Umodim Chachamim. So the Chachamim agree, however, b'shar kol adam, if it's somebody else, if he goes to his neighbor and says, "Listen, here's some money, go and buy the wine for me," because then the second guy will do the kinyan, and then it's perfectly okay. So Chachamim agree that somebody else, that even just by handing over his money to his neighbor, okay. Oh, so this she'ein actually looks like it should be ve'ein. Let me just see if they say that. So now the Mishnah makes a statement over here that you cannot make an eruv for a person without his knowledge. Rabbi Yehuda says that's a bit of a blanket statement. Let's just be clear about this. That's talking about an eruv techumin. And because there it's ambiguous, that you get a benefit and you've got a loss. Because okay, granted, it's enabled you to walk another 2,000 amas out of the city, but you've lost 2,000 amas inside the city that you can't walk now. So it's not a clear benefit. It's just a tactical move that if you want to make something make an eruv in the West, then you need a person's permission in order to make such an eruv. Aval. When it comes to eruv chateres, you can be mazakeh him even if he doesn't know. You can do something that is a complete benefit to a person without his knowledge. Then nobody's ever going to complain. Why did you make an eruv chateres for me? Because it's all benefit and no loss.
Right. Okay.
But when it comes to an eruv techumin, that entails a certain amount of loss as well. So you can't make an eruv techumin for somebody without their permission. Okay. Hey Daled.
We may not measure except with a 50 cubit rope, neither shorter nor longer. We may not measure except with the rope opposite his heart. If he was measuring and reached the valley or a mound, he should span it and return to his measuring. If he reached a mountain, he should span it and return to his measuring, provided he does not go out of the Techum. If he is unable to span it, regarding this, Doste Ben Yani says, stated in Reb Meir's name, I have heard that we pierce mountains.
Right, piercing the mountains, that's the method of lifting of standing up. Yeah.
We may not accept measurements except from an expert. If he extended the Techum at one point and shortened it at another, the extended Techum is followed. If one extended it while another shortened it, the one who extended it is followed. For even a male slave, even a female slave is believed to say, until here is the Sabbath Techum, for the sages do not state this law to be stringent, but rather to be lenient. If a town of an individual became public property, we may make an error for its entirety. But if a public town became an individual's, we may not make an error for its entirety, unless we exclude an area from its equivalent to the town of Hadashah in Judea, from which has 50 inhabitants. These are the words of Reb Yehuda, and Reb Shimon says 3 courtyards containing 2 dwellings.
Yeah. All right, Shabbos. Tesvav base.
There are knots for which we are not liable to. There are knots for which we are not liable, as we are for the camel driver's knot and the sailor's knot. A woman may tie the opening of a chemise, strings of a hairnet or of a girdle, straps of a shoe or a sandal, a leather, canteens of wine or oil, or a pot of meat. Reb Eliezer ben Yaakov says we may tie a rope in front of an animal in order that it not go out. We may tie a pail with a belt, but not with a rope. But Reb Yehuda permits. Reb Yehuda stated a general rule: any knot which is not permanent, we are not liable for. We may fold garments even 4 or 5 times. We may make the beds on the night of the Sabbath for the Sabbath, but we may not on Sabbath for the night after the Sabbath. Reb Yishmael says we may fold garments and make beds on Yom Kippur for the Sabbath, and fats on the Sabbath sacrifices may be offered on Yom Kippur. The Akiva says neither those of the Sabbath may be offered on Yom Kippur, and nor may those of Yom Kippur be offered on Shabbos. Okay. All right. All books of Holy Scriptures may be saved from the fire, whether we read from them or whether we do not read from them. Even though they are written in any foreign language, they warrant being hidden away. Now, why do we not read from them? Because of the neglect of the lecture hall. We may save the case of the scroll with the scroll and the case of the tefillin with the tefillin, even though there is money in them. To where may we take them to safety? To a blind alley. And Sarah says, even to an open one. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Maestros. Daled Beit. If children hit fig, right? If the children hit figs for the Sabbath and forgot to tithe them, they may not be eaten after the Sabbath before tithing them. A basket for the Sabbath, Beis Shammai exempts, but Beis Hillel declare it liable. Rabbi Yehuda says he who gathers a basketful to send to his friend, and likewise not eat before tithing. If one takes olives from the vat, he may dip them into salt one by one and eat them. If he salted them and put them in before himself, he is liable. Reb Eliezer says from a clean vat he is liable. From an unclean one he is exempt because he can return the remainder. And one may drink over the press, either warm or cold, and be exempt. So it says Reb Meir, but Reb Eliezer Betzadik declares it liable. And the Kachamim say with warm he is liable, with cold he is exempt.
Nida.
Okay, we are on Dalit. What is meant by a virgin? Any girl has never discharged blood in her life, even if she was married. Regarding a pregnant woman, her time suffices for her only from when her fetus becomes noticeable. Regarding a nursing woman, her time suffices for her until she weans a child. If she gave a child to a wet nurse, or she weaned him or he died, Ben Meir says she conveys Tumah retroactively for 24 hours. But the Chachamim say her time suffices for her. What is meant by an old woman? Any woman for whom 3 periods have passed near her old age. Reb Eliezer says, any woman for whom 3 periods have passed, her time suffices for her. Rabbi Yossi says a pregnant woman and a nursing woman for whom 3 periods have passed, their time suffices for them. And regarding what did they say with their time suffices for her, with regard to the first discharge of blood, but with regard to the second discharge, she conveys tuma retroactively for 24 hours. But if she experiences the first discharge as a result of an external stimulus, then even for the second discharge, her time suffices for her.
Right. Chulin Yud Daled.
If one if one who converted owned a cow, if he was slaughtered before he converted, he's exempt. If it was slaughtered after he converted, he's obligated. If it is uncertain, he is exempt, because the burden of proof is on the one who seeks to exact payment from the other. Which is the foreleg? From the carpus to the shoulder blade, and that is the one of the Nazir, and corresponding to that in the hind leg is the thigh. Rabbi Yehuda says the thigh is from the heel joint to the knee joint. What is the jaw? From the joint of the jaw until the opening of the trachea. The mitzvah of giving the first of the fleece applies both in the land and outside the land, when the temple exists and when the temple does not exist, to unconsecrated animals, but not to consecrated ones. The stringency of the floor of the foreleg, the jaws, and the more over the law of the first of the fleece is the law of the foreleg. The jaws and the more apply to cattle and to flocks, to many and to few, whereas the law of the first of the fleece applies only to sheep, and it applies only to many. How many are considered many? Reb Shammai says 2 sheep. The pasuk says a man will sustain a calf and 2 sheep. Beis Hillel says 5. The pasuk says 5 prepared sheep. And Reb Dosa ben Harkness says 5 sheep, each of which is shorn with a mana and a half, and are subject to the law of the first of the fleece, but the Chachamim say 5 sheep that are shorn of any amount. How much ought we give him? The weight of 5 selim in Judea, which are the equivalent of 10 selim in Galilee. Bleached but not dirty, enough to make a small garment out of it. As it is stated, the pasuk says, "You will give to him," that there should be enough in it for a gift. If he did not manage to give it to him and he dyed it, it is exempt. If he bleached it but did not dye it, he's obligated. If one buys fleece of a Gentile sheep, he is exempt for the first of the fleece. If one buys fleece of another sheep, if the seller left some over, the seller is obligated. But if he did not leave anything over, the buyer is obligated. If he had 2 kinds, dark and white, and he sold him the dark ones but not the white ones, the males but not the females, this one must give for himself, and that one must give for himself.
Right.
That was it. Okay.
And Sota.
Okay. From where is derived that the recitation of the passage of the first fruits must be in Hebrew? With respect to the passage of the first fruits, it stated that you shall speak up and say before Hashem your God, and over there it states, and the Levite shall speak up and say. Just as the speaking up stated over there means in the holy tongue, here too it means in the holy tongue.
And we'll see in the coming Mishnahs that the you know the anu, ania is taken now as a key word that says that it has to be said in Lashon HaKodesh.
From where is it derived that Chalitza must be in Hebrew? With respect to Chalitza, it is stated, and she shall speak up and say. And over there it states, and the Levium shall speak up and say. Just as the speaking up over there means the holy tongue, here too it means in the holy tongue. Rabbi Yehuda says, and she shall speak up and say, so. This implies that she must say it in this language, exact language. In what manner were the blessings and curses recited? As soon as Israel crossed the Jordan, they came to Mount Gerizim and Mount Evel, and they are in the vicinity of Samaria near Shechem, near Ele Moreh, as it is said, and are they not across the Jordan? And over there it states that Avram passed through the land until the place of Shechem, until Elon Moreh. Just as Elon Moreh, there is Shechem, and so Elon Moreh, here is Shechem. 6 tribes responded to the top of Mount Gerizim, and 6 tribes sounded to the Mount Evel, while the Kohanim and the Levite and the ark stood below in between. The Kohanim surrounded the ark, the Levium surrounded the Kohen, and all of Israel were on this side and that, and it said, and all of Israel with its elders, its officers, and its judges stood on this side and that on the side of the ark. They turned their faces toward Mount Gerizim and began with the blessing. Blessed is the man who does not make a graven or molten image, and those who responded, Amen. They turned their faces toward Mount Ebal and began with the curse. Cursed is the man who makes a graven or molten image, and those responded, Amen. They continued in this manner until they completed all the blessings and curses. And afterwards they brought the stones. They built an altar, plastered it with lime, and inscribed upon it all the words of the Torah in 70 languages, as it is said, explained well. Then they took the stones and came and spent the night in their place. Have you been there to Mount Gerizim and Ebal? Have you been over there?
I've never been there actually.
We've been there, and then when we went to Kevi Yosef, and everybody asking the same question: how did they hear? It's like it's a big distance away.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you have that Shiloh about anything that Moshe said.
True. Right. True.
Here you've got less. You've got a few people calling it out at once. You've got all the Levim calling the whole thing out, and
right.
Okay, there you've got more of a chance. But when Moshe speaks to the people, the whole thing must be al derech nes.
Right. Sure. I don't know. I'm sure people have written about it and speak about it, but I haven't seen anything. I haven't looked. So, okay. Thank you very much. Tomorrow will be in the same situation with the time. So.
Same thing. So we've already finished about the same time.
No problem.
Okay. See ya.
Have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Good Chodesh.